All right, Alistair, this is one of my favorite topics, actually. It's about influencers, and sometimes they come literally in a second, a fleeting moment, and sometimes they last a lifetime. We've all had many. When I speak, I a lot of times talk about my grandfather, him, my grandmother, my mom, my aunt came from Kiev years and years ago, and they immigrated to Canada. But I remember when I was about five, he used to take me for walks in the park, and he seems to talk to everybody, which is apparently where I get it from, DNA wise or something. And but one day I asked him, I said Zeta is what I call him. I said, "How do you know all these people?" And he actually, I remember him doing this. He actually said, "See that guy over there?" One day I smiled at him, and he looked at me and smiled back at me, and he came over and started talking to me. We became friends and stuff. And then someone else saw it and came over and smiled at us. And as simple as it sounded, I always remembered it that thinking as a 5-year-old, I said to myself, wow, this life's easy. I just got to smile at people type of thing. And then you grow up and you start complicating it, which you don't really have to because a smile sometimes is just good enough to sometimes influence people. So with that little story in hand, can you share maybe two or three people that have been influencers in your life?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. Um, I think sort of stemming back sort of in chronological order, when I was a little boy, I was learning to sail in the south of England. I used to sail every day of my life. Actually grew up 300 yards from the sailing club, which was really fun.
Yeah.
And when I was there doing a sort of sailing course, I had the very good fortune to have one of my first mentors, who was one of the world's greatest yachtsmen. His name was Sir Peter Blake, and he won the America's Cup a couple of times for Team New
Wow.
Zealand. And he went on to do extraordinary work with sustainability and the ocean and the planet. And when you meet people like that, he was a leader in so many ways, not least in his professional career. And then after retiring from yachting, he then went around the world to tell everybody how the earth is that the ocean is changing. I mean, he said that he used to see lots of albatross in his first part of his career, circumnavigating the globe, but towards the end of his career, very rarely saw them at all. And it's these sort of moments where he firsthand saw the difference and how things were changing. And in his book, prior to when he very untimely and sadly passed away, he said that beautiful and unique planet Earth as we know it is in serious trouble. And he said our watchword is sustainability. And so since then, I've always had very close to my heart sustainability at the core. And whether that's sustainability in yachting, I've won international awards in that subject. The reason I designed this yacht behind me is a 190-foot concept, 58 meters. I wanted to try and prove a point to the world. You can have eco luxury. It can be done in a sustainable, holistic design approach, and it can be done from the power of the wind and the sun and have zero emission and net zero, no impact at all. And again, it's back to Sir Peter Blake, who is one of my first mentors and certainly one of my first influences in my life.
I don't think things happen by accident, by the way. So that's amazing. Wow. Who are the others?
Yeah, and then great people throughout my life. I've been very fortunate. I always say I've had the privilege of standing on the shoulders of giants throughout my career and my life. Obviously, family and friends who have supported me through my career. But very early on, so 20 years, little over 20 years ago now, one of my first influences in that respect is one of the world's greatest yacht designers. I had a good fortune of attending a careers talk when I was 15 at my school. And I attended a talk from the foremost yacht designer called Andrew Winch. And he opened my eyes to the world of the yacht industry and the super yacht world. Um, I was a little boy who loved sailing and design already. And then when he said you could do a profession in that, that got very exciting.
Yeah, I
And so then,
bet.
so, so since the age of 15, I always had the focus to work in yachting and the yacht industry. I then went on to university and did a 4-year degree in yacht design, and set up my first business in 2008 as a super yacht design consultancy. But again, my 20 years career and growing relationships in the yacht vacations and sales sector now has all stemmed from that one careers talk when I was 15 years old. And since then, I've always had a passion for yachting and all things nautical. So yeah, Andrew Winch, I have to say, was another key sort of mentor of mine when I was younger.
Reminds me of that commercial when the baby wakes up in the hospital and says, "Where am I?" And they say Orlando, and it's like, "Yay, Disney World!" So, you know, you were born in the right place at the right
Yeah,
time, type of thing. That's spectacular, and give your parents kudos too for giving you the exposure and the place to live to be able to appreciate all that. I'm sure
absolutely.
was
Yeah.
amazing in itself. Thanks for sharing that. Really awesome.
Yeah, no, you're welcome.